When my brother tried to humiliate me in a board meeting by calling me an incompetent manager damaging the company, I knew it was time to stop staying silent. While he was introducing me as a failed sister, I was about to show him the majority shares and CEO authority my father had given me 25 years ago, and the truth he would learn would shock him. Comment where you're watching from and stay until the end, because this isn't just a sibling fight. It's the emergence of 25 years of hidden power. My name is Helen Morrison. I'm 58 years old, and I've been keeping the biggest secret of my life for 25 years. I live in Chicago, Illinois, and work as Executive Vice President at Morrison Industries. But what everyone doesn't know is this. I'm actually the 60% shareholder of the company and the real CEO. Morrison Industries is a manufacturing company founded by my father, Thomas Morrison, in 1952. Steel fabrication, construction materials, industrial equipment. Annual revenue is approximately $85 million, 340 employees. A successful family business. When my father died in 1999, I was 33, and my older brother Richard was 38. Everyone thought Richard would inherit the company. He was the eldest son, a business school graduate, seen as a natural leader. But my father had made a different decision. In my father's last testament, he left 60% of the shares to me and 40% to Richard, and he gave me the CEO position while making Richard the COO, Chief Operating Officer. Why? Because my father had closely observed me for the last 5 years. I understood practical operations, had good relationships with workers, and had sound business judgment. Richard, on the other hand, was arrogant, didn't treat employees respectfully, and had a tendency to make risky decisions. But my father was also concerned about family harmony. Richard was proud with a big ego. If he learned the truth, it would be devastating. So my father made an unusual arrangement. In the legal documents, I was the majority owner and CEO, but Richard would be the public face. Richard would get the president title, run daily operations, while I would hold the real authority in the background. Helen, my father had said on his deathbed, you're the real boss. But let Richard think he's running things. Only use your power if absolutely necessary. I maintained this arrangement for 25 years. Richard thought he was running the company, while I was making the real decisions in the shadows. Only company lawyer Michael Peterson knew the arrangement, and we reviewed the real financial reports in private meetings every 6 months. The system worked well initially. Richard was a good operational manager for small decisions. I set the strategic direction, approved major contracts, did long-term planning. Richard handled daily management. But over the last 5 years, Richard became increasingly arrogant. Success had gone to his head. He began to think of himself as the real owner. In 2019, we had our first serious clash. Richard proposed an expensive acquisition, buying a small competitor for $12 million. Helen, this is a strategic move. We'll increase market share. I reviewed the numbers. It was a terrible deal. The target company was debt-heavy, had outdated equipment, and a declining customer base. Richard, this acquisition is risky. It's overpriced and not worth it. Helen, you don't understand operations. This is an expansion opportunity. Richard, the financial analysis is clear. This is a loss operation. Helen, you're too conservative. Modern business requires calculated risks. Ultimately, I blocked the acquisition in a private meeting. Richard was furious but couldn't find an official explanation. The board voted against it, I said diplomatically. In 2020, we had a second clash. Richard wanted to open an expensive new facility in Houston. Helen, the Texas market is a huge opportunity. We need to expand. Again, the numbers didn't make sense. Existing facilities were underutilized, market research was insufficient, ROI projections were unrealistic. Richard, current capacity is sufficient. Expansion is premature. Helen, you lack vision. Growth requires investment. Again, I privately blocked the expansion. Richard began to notice a pattern. His major decisions were somehow being disapproved, but the reason was unclear. In 2021, we had a third clash. Richard negotiated a risky contract with a high-end client. The terms were terrible. Cost overruns were guaranteed. Timeline was unrealistic. Penalty clauses were excessive. Helen, this is a prestigious client. It's a reputation boost. Richard, this contract is a money loser. The terms are unacceptable. Helen, you can't see the opportunity. Sometimes prestige is more important than financials. I rejected the contract. Richard's frustration reached its peak. Helen, someone on the board is sabotaging me. There's internal politics. Richard began to become paranoid. He was asking employees questions, developing conspiracy theories in meetings. In 2022, the situation escalated dramatically. Richard organized a board meeting and targeted me. Board members, we need to address leadership issues in this company. Gathered in the conference room, Richard, me, and 4 external board members. My father had preferred a small board structure. Helen, your performance as EVP is concerning. Several strategic opportunities have been missed, growth initiatives blocked. Richard, those decisions were financially sound. Helen, you're too risk-averse. The modern market requires an aggressive approach. The board members looked uncomfortable. They didn't want to witness family conflict. Helen, Richard continued, I think your role should be reassessed. Maybe less responsibility, more of an advisory position. Advisory position? A demotion. Richard, my performance metrics are strong. The company is profitable, debt is low, employee satisfaction is high. Helen, profitability is important, but growth is essential. Your conservative approach is making the company stagnant. Then Richard played his trump card. Board members, I recommend that Helen step down from the EVP position. Maybe a consultant role would be a better fit. Consultant role. Complete removal from operations. The board members looked awkward. These conflicts in family businesses are delicate. Richard, said board member Patricia Williams, this seems like a family issue. Maybe a private discussion would be better. Patricia, this is a business issue, separate from family. Richard was confident. He thought he had the upper hand. Helen, Richard turned to me, maybe family business isn't your strength. You could consider a different career path. Different career path, suggesting I leave the family company entirely. That was the final straw. Richard, I said calmly, let's pause the meeting. I have documents I need to review. Documents? Helen, don't use deflection tactics. Richard, trust me. You'll want to review these documents. I walked to the conference room cabinet and opened a locked drawer. Inside was a sealed manila envelope, waiting for 25 years. I placed the envelope on the conference table and opened it slowly. Board members, I need to share important information. Richard looked puzzled. I pulled out the first document, my father's last will and testament. This is our father's will. The legal distribution of Morrison Industries ownership. I read aloud. To my daughter, Helen Morrison, I bequeath 60% ownership of Morrison Industries, with full authority as Chief Executive Officer. Silence. Richard Morrison shall receive 40% ownership and serve as Chief Operating Officer, reporting to Helen Morrison. Richard's face went white. Helen, what is this? Richard, this is the real ownership structure. I've kept it hidden for 25 years. This is impossible. I run the company. No, Richard. You manage operations. I own the company. The board members were in shocked silence. Second document, corporate bylaws. According to company bylaws, the CEO has final authority over all strategic decisions, major expenditures, and executive appointments. Helen, Richard whispered, you've been the real boss this whole time? Richard, father made an arrangement. You would be the public face. I would hold the real authority. Third document, legal power of attorney. This gives me complete authority to make binding decisions for Morrison Industries. Richard stood up shakily. Helen, why didn't you tell me? Because father wanted family harmony. You're proud, Richard. The truth would have been devastating. But I've been running the company for 25 years. Richard, you've been managing daily operations. I've been making strategic decisions behind the scenes. Fourth document, financial records. Every major decision in the last 25 years, acquisitions, expansions, contracts, approved or rejected by me. The Houston expansion, rejected by me. Financial analysis showed losses. The acquisition deal, blocked by me. The target company was worthless. The risky contract, canceled by me. The terms were unacceptable. Richard collapsed back into his chair. Helen, I feel like a fool. Richard, you're a good operational manager, but strategic thinking isn't your strength. Board member Patricia Williams spoke up. Helen, this is an unprecedented situation. Patricia, the legal documents are clear. I'm CEO, Richard is COO. And Richard's reaction? Richard's choice. Continue as COO with full respect, or find a different path. Richard was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Helen, I've been arrogant. I thought I was running the company, making independent decisions. Richard, you're a valuable team member, but remember the hierarchy. What happens now? Now, a truthful working relationship. You use your operations expertise. I set strategic direction. And board meetings. I'll chair board meetings going forward. You'll present operational reports. Richard nodded slowly. Helen, I'm sorry. I underestimated you. Richard, father made a wise arrangement. Let's honor his vision. The meeting ended with a new understanding. The board members were supportive, impressed by the revelation. The next month, there was an official company-wide announcement. Helen Morrison promoted to CEO. Richard Morrison continues as COO. Employee reaction was positive. Many had suspected Helen was the real decision-maker behind the scenes. Company performance improved dramatically. Clear chain of command, no more conflicting directives, unified strategic vision. Richard was humbled, but adapted well. He was an excellent COO when not trying to be CEO. The financial results spoke for themselves. Revenue increased 23% in the first year under open leadership. Employee satisfaction scores were the highest in company history. Industry recognition followed. Family Business of the Year Award, Best Workplace Culture designation. Richard eventually thanked me privately. Helen, I was blinded by ego. You saved the company from my poor decisions. Richard, we make a good team when roles are clear. I understand now why Father chose you as CEO. Richard, leadership isn't about title, it's about judgment. Today, 2 years later, the company is thriving. Richard is a respected COO. I'm an effective CEO. The family relationship has been restored. The 25-year secret has been revealed. But the family is stronger than ever. When my brother tried to humiliate me in a board meeting by calling me an incompetent manager damaging the company, I knew it was time to stop staying silent. While he was introducing me as a failed sister, I showed him the majority shares and CEO authority my father had given me 25 years ago. And the truth he learned shocked him. Sometimes real power works best in the shadows. Sometimes protecting someone's ego requires hiding your own strength. And sometimes, when pushed too far, truth becomes the most powerful weapon of all. Richard learned that underestimating his sister was a costly mistake. I learned that 25 years of patience can pay off dramatically. And Morrison Industries learned that the best leaders aren't always the most obvious ones. Family business thrives when roles are clear, authority is respected, and ego takes a backseat to wisdom. My father made the right choice 25 years ago. Helen Morrison was born to lead Morrison Industries. Richard Morrison was born to support that leadership. And together, we've built something greater than either could achieve alone.